The law of success. Lesson 4: the habit of saving. Man is a combination of flesh, bone, blood, hair, and brain cells. These are the building materials out of which he shapes, through the law of habit, his own personality. To advise one to save money without describing how to save would be somewhat like drawing the picture of a horse and riding under it. This is a horse. It is obvious to all that the saving of money is one of the essentials for success, but the big question uppermost in the minds of the majority of those who do not save is, how can I do it? The saving of money is solely a matter of habit. For this reason, this lesson begins with a brief analysis of the law of habit. It is literally true that man, through the law of habit, shapes his own personality. Through repetition, any act indulged in a few times becomes a habit, and the mind appears to be nothing more than a mass of motivating forces growing out of our daily habits. When once fixed in the mind, a habit voluntarily impels one to action. For example, follow a given route to your daily work, or to some other place that you frequently visit, and very soon the habit has been formed and your mind will lead you over that route without thought on your part. Moreover, if you start out with the intention of traveling in another direction, without keeping the thought of the change in routes constantly in mind, you will find yourself following the old route. Public speakers have found that the telling over and over again of a story, which may be based upon pure fiction, brings into play the law of habit, and very soon they forget whether the story is true or not. Walls of limitation built through habit. Millions of people go through life in poverty and want because they have made destructive use of the law of habit. Not understanding either the law of habit or the law of attraction through which like attracts like, those who remain in poverty seldom realize that they are where they are as the result of their own acts. Fix in your mind the thought that your ability is limited to a given earning capacity and you will never earn more than that, because the law of habit will set up a definite limitation of the amount you can earn. Your subconscious mind will accept this limitation, and very soon you will feel yourself slipping until finally you will become so hedged in by fear of poverty, one of the 6 basic fears, that opportunity will no longer knock at your door. Your doom will be sealed, your fate fixed. Formation of the habit of saving does not mean that you shall limit your earning capacity. It means just the opposite, that you shall apply this law so that it not only conserves that which you earn in a systematic manner, but it also places you in the way of greater opportunity and gives you the vision, the self-confidence, the imagination, the enthusiasm, the initiative, and leadership actually to increase your earning capacity. Stating this great law in another way, when you thoroughly understand the law of habit, you may ensure yourself success in the great game of money-making by playing both ends of that game against the middle. You proceed in this manner. First, through the law of definite chief aim, you set up, in your mind, an accurate, definite description of that which you want, including the amount of money you intend to earn. Your subconscious mind takes over this picture which you have created and uses it as a blueprint, chart, or map by which to mold your thoughts and actions into practical plans for attaining the object of your chief aim or purpose. Through the law of habit, you keep the object of your definite chief aim fixed in your mind in the manner described in Lesson 2 until it becomes firmly and permanently implanted there. This practice will destroy the poverty consciousness and set up, in its place, a prosperity consciousness. You will actually begin to demand prosperity, you will begin to expect it, you will begin to prepare yourself to receive it and to use it wisely, thus paving the way or setting the stage for the development of the habit of saving. Second, having in this manner increased your earning power, you will make further use of the law of habit by provision, in your written statement of your definite chief aim, for saving a definite proportion of all the money you earn. Therefore, as your earnings increase, your savings will, likewise, increase in proportion. By ever urging yourself on and demanding of yourself increased earning power, on the one hand, and by systematically laying aside a definite amount of all your earnings, on the other hand, you will soon reach the point at which you have removed all imaginary limitations from your own mind, and you will then be well started on the road toward financial independence. Nothing could be more practical or more easily accomplished than this. Reverse the operation of the law of habit by setting up in your mind the fear of poverty, and very soon this fear will reduce your earning capacity until you will be barely able to earn sufficient money to take care of your actual necessities. The publishers of newspapers could create a panic in a week's time by filling their columns with news items concerning the actual business failures of the country, despite the fact that but few businesses compared to the total number in existence actually fail. The so-called crime waves are very largely the products of sensational journalism. A single murder case, when exploited by the newspapers of the country through scare headlines, is sufficient to start a regular wave of similar crimes in various localities. Following the repetition in the daily papers of the Hickman murder story, similar cases began to be reported from other parts of the country. We are the victims of our habits, no matter who we are or what may be our life calling. Any idea that is deliberately fixed in the mind, or any idea that is permitted to set itself up in the mind as the result of suggestion, environment, the influence of associates, etc., is sure to cause us to indulge in acts which conform to the nature of the idea. Form the habit of thinking and talking of prosperity and abundance, and very soon material evidence of these will begin to manifest itself in the nature of wider opportunity and new and unexpected opportunity. Like attracts like. If you are in business and have formed the habit of talking and thinking about business being bad, business will be bad. One pessimist, providing he is permitted to continue his destructive influence long enough, can destroy the work of half a dozen competent men, and he will do it by setting adrift in the minds of his associates the thought of poverty and failure. Don't be this type of man or woman. One of the most successful bankers in the state of Illinois has this sign hanging in his private office. You are a human magnet, and you are constantly attracting to you people whose characters. We talk and think only of abundance here. If you have a tale of woe, please keep it, as we do not want it. No business firm wants the services of a pessimist, and those who understand the law of attraction and the law of habit will no more tolerate the pessimist than they would permit a burglar to roam around their place of business, for the reason that one such person will destroy the usefulness of those around him. In tens of thousands of homes, the general topic of conversation is poverty and want, and that is just what they are getting. They think of poverty, they talk of poverty, they accept poverty as their lot in life. They reason that because their ancestors were poor before them, they, also, must remain poor. The poverty consciousness is formed as the result of the habit of thinking of and fearing poverty. Lo, the thing I had feared has come upon me. The slavery of debt. Debt is a merciless master, a fatal enemy of the savings habit. Poverty, alone, is sufficient to kill off ambition, destroy self-confidence, and destroy hope, but add to it the burden of debt, and all who are victims of these two cruel taskmasters are practically doomed to failure. No man can do his best work. No man can express himself in terms that command respect. No man can either create or carry out a definite purpose in life, with heavy debt hanging over his head. The man who is bound in the slavery of debt is just as helpless as Leviathan the slave who is bound by ignorance, or by actual chains. The author has a very close friend whose income is $1,000 a month. His wife loves society and tries to make a $20,000 showing on a $12,000 income, with the result that this poor fellow is usually about $8,000 in debt. Every member of his family has this spending habit, having acquired this from the mother. The children, 2 girls and 1 boy, are now of the age when they are thinking of going to college, but this is impossible because of the father's debts. The result is dissension between the father and his children, which makes the entire family unhappy and miserable. It is a terrible thing even to think of going through life like a prisoner in chains, bound down and owned by somebody else on account of debts. The accumulation of debts is a habit. It starts in a small way and grows to enormous proportions slowly, step by step, until finally it takes charge of one's very soul. Thousands of young men start their married lives with unnecessary debts hanging over their heads and never manage to get out from under the load. After the novelty of marriage begins to wear off, as it usually does, the married couple begin to feel the embarrassment of want, and this feeling grows until it leads, oftentimes, to open dissatisfaction with one another, and eventually to the divorce court. A man who is bound by the slavery of debt has no time or inclination to set up or work out ideals, with the result that he drifts downward with time until he eventually begins to set up limitations in his own mind. And by these he hedges himself behind prison walls of fear and doubt from which he never escapes. No sacrifice is too great to avoid the misery of debt. Think of what you owe yourself and those who are dependent upon you and resolve to be no man's debtor, is the advice of one very successful man whose early chances were destroyed by debt. This man came to himself soon enough to throw off the habit of buying that which he did not need and eventually worked his way out of slavery. Most men who develop the habit of debt will not be so fortunate as to come to their senses in time to save themselves, because debt is something like quicksand in that it has a tendency to draw its victim deeper and deeper into the mire. The fear of poverty is one of the most destructive of the 6 basic fears described in Lesson 3. The man who becomes hopelessly in debt is seized with this poverty fear. His ambition and self-confidence become paralyzed, and he sinks gradually into oblivion. There are 2 classes of debts, and these are so different in nature that they deserve to be here described as follows. 1. There are debts incurred for luxuries which become a dead loss. 2. There are debts incurred in the course of professional or business trading, which represent service or merchandise that can be converted back into assets. The first class of debts is the one to be avoided. The second class may be indulged in, providing the one incurring the debts uses judgment and does not go beyond the bounds of reasonable limitation. The moment one buys beyond his limitations, he enters the realm of speculation, and speculation swallows more of its victims than it enriches. Practically all people who live beyond their means are tempted to speculate with the hope that they may recoup, at a single turn of the wheel of fortune, so to speak, their entire indebtedness. The will generally stops at the wrong place, and, far from finding themselves out of debt, such people as indulge in speculation are bound more closely as slaves of debt. The fear of poverty breaks down the willpower of its victims, and they then find themselves unable to restore their lost fortunes, and, what is still more sad, they lose all ambition to extricate themselves from the slavery of debt. Hardly a day passes that one may not see an account in the newspapers of at least one suicide as the result of worry over debts. The slavery of debt causes more suicides every year than all other causes combined, which is a slight indication of the cruelty of the poverty fear. During the war, millions of men faced the front-line trenches without flinching, knowing that death might overtake them any moment. Those same men, when facing the fear of poverty, often cringe and out of sheer desperation, which paralyzes their reason, sometimes commit suicide. The person who is free from debt may whip poverty and achieve outstanding financial success, but if he is bound by debt, such achievement is but a remote possibility and never a probability. Fear of poverty is a negative, destructive state of mind. Moreover, one negative state of mind has a tendency to attract other similar states of mind. For example, the fear of poverty may attract the fear of ill health, and these two may attract the fear of old age, so that the victim finds himself poverty-stricken, in ill health and actually growing old long before the time when he should begin to show the signs of old age. Millions of untimely, nameless graves have been filled by this cruel state of mind known as the fear of poverty. Less than a dozen years ago, a young man held a responsible position with the City National Bank of New York City. Through living beyond his income, he contracted a large amount of debts which caused him to worry until this destructive habit began to show up in his work, and he was dismissed from the bank service. He secured another position at less money, but his creditors embarrassed him so that he decided to resign and go away into another city, where he hoped to escape them until he had accumulated enough money to pay off his indebtedness. Creditors have a way of tracing debtors, so very soon they were close on the heels of this young man, whose employer found out about his indebtedness and dismissed him from his position. He then searched in vain for employment for 2 months. One cold night, he went to the top of one of the tall buildings on Broadway and jumped off. Debt had claimed another victim. How to master the fear of poverty? To whip the fear of poverty, one must take 2 very definite steps, providing one is in debt. First, quit the habit of buying on credit, and follow this by gradually paying off the debts that you have already incurred. Being free from the worry of indebtedness, you are ready to revamp the habits of your mind and redirect your course toward prosperity. Adopt, as a part of your definite chief aim, the habit of saving a regular proportion of your income, even if this be no more than a penny a day. Very soon this habit will begin to lay hold of your mind, and you will actually get joy out of saving. Any habit may be discontinued by building in its place some other and more desirable habit. The spending habit must be replaced by the saving habit by all who attain financial independence. Merely to discontinue an undesirable habit is not enough, as such habits have a tendency to reappear unless the place they formerly occupied in the mind is filled by some other habit of a different nature. The discontinuance of a habit leaves a hole in the mind, and this hole must be filled up with some other form of habit, or the old one will return and claim its place. Throughout this course, many psychological formulas, which the student has been requested to memorize and practice, have been described. You will find such a formula in Lesson 3, the object of which is to develop self-confidence. These formulas may be assimilated so they become a part of your mental machinery through the law of habit, if you will follow the instructions for their use which accompany each of them. It is assumed that you are striving to attain financial independence. The accumulation of money is not difficult after you have once mastered the fear of poverty and developed in its place the habit of saving. The author of this course would be greatly disappointed to know that any student of the course got the impression from anything in this or any of the other lessons that success is measured by dollars alone. However, money does represent an important factor in success, and it must be given its proper value in any philosophy intended to help people in becoming useful, happy, and prosperous. The cold, cruel, relentless truth is that in this age of materialism a man is no more than so many grains of sand, which may be blown helter-skelter by every astray wind of circumstance, unless he is entrenched behind the power of money. Genius may offer many rewards to those who possess it, but the fact still remains that genius without money with which to give it expression is but an empty, skeleton-like honor. The man without money is at the mercy of the man who has it. And this goes, regardless of the amount of ability he may possess, the training he has had, or the native genius with which he was gifted by nature. There is no escape from the fact that people will weigh you very largely in the light of bank balances, no matter who you are or what you can do. The first question that arises in the minds of most people when they meet a stranger is, how much money has he? If he has money, he is welcomed into homes and business opportunities are thrown his way. All sorts of attention are lavished upon him. He is a prince, and as such is entitled to the best of the land. But if his shoes are run down at the heels, his clothes are not pressed, his collar is dirty, and he shows plainly the signs of impoverished finances, woe be his lot, for the passing crowd will step on his toes and blow the smoke of disrespect in his face. These are not pretty statements, but they have one virtue: they're true. This tendency to judge people by the money they have, or their power to control money, is not confined to any one class of people. We all have a touch of it, whether we recognize the fact or not. Thomas A. Edison is one of the best-known and most respected inventors in the world, yet it is no misstatement of facts to say that he would have remained a practically unknown, obscure personage had he not followed the habit of conserving his resources and shown his ability to save money. Henry Ford never would have got to first base with his horseless carriage had he not developed, quite early in life, the habit of saving. Moreover, had Mr. Ford not conserved his resources and hedged himself behind their power, he would have been swallowed up by his competitors or those who covetously desired to take his business away from him, long, long years ago. Many a man has gone a very long way toward success, only to stumble and fall, never again to rise, because of lack of money in times of emergency. The mortality rate in business each year, due to lack of reserve capital for emergencies, is stupendous. To this one cause are due more of the business failures than to all other causes combined. Reserve funds are essential in the successful operation of business. Likewise, savings accounts are essential to success on the part of individuals. Without a savings fund, the individual suffers in two ways. First, by inability to seize opportunities that come only to the person with some ready cash, and, second, by embarrassment due to some unexpected emergency calling for cash. It might be said, also, that the individual suffers in still a third respect by not developing the habit of saving, through lack of certain other qualities essential for success which grow out of the practice of the habit of saving. The nickels, dimes, and pennies which the average person allows to slip through his fingers would, if systematically saved and properly put to work, eventually bring financial independence. Through the courtesy of a prominent building and loan association, the following table has been compiled, showing what a monthly saving of $5, $10, $25, or $50 will amount to at the end of 10 years. These figures are startling when one comes to consider the fact that the average person spends from $5 to $50 a month for useless merchandise or so-called entertainment. The making and saving of money is a science, yet the rules by which money is accumulated are so simple that anyone may follow them. The main prerequisite is a willingness to subordinate the present to the future by eliminating unnecessary expenditures for luxuries. A young man, who was earning only $20 a week as chauffeur for a prominent New York banker, was induced by his employer to keep an accurate account of every cent he spent for 1 week. The following is an itemized list of his expenses: cigarettes 75 cents, chewing gum 30 cents, soda fountain $1.80, cigars for associates $1.50, moving picture show $1, shaves, including tips $1.60, newspaper, daily and Sunday 22 cents, shoe shines 30 cents, $7.47, board and room $12, money on hand 53 cents, $20. These figures tell a tragic story which might as well apply to thousands of other people as to the young man who kept this account. His actual savings out of $20 were only 53 cents. He spent $7.47 for items, every one of which could have been greatly reduced, and most of which could have been eliminated entirely. In fact, by shaving himself and shining his own shoes, he could have saved every cent of the $7.47. Now turn to the table made up by the Building and Loan Association and observe what the saving of $7.47 a week would amount to. Suppose the amount this young man actually saved had been only $25 a month. The saving would have increased to the snug sum of $5,000 by the end of the first 10 years. The young man in question was 21 years old at the time he kept this expense account. By the time he reached the age of 31 years, he could have had a substantial amount in the bank had he saved $25 a month, and this saving would have brought him many opportunities that would have led directly to financial independence. Some who are short-sighted, pseudo-philosophers, are fond of pointing to the fact that no one can become rich merely by saving a few dollars a week. This may be true enough, as far as the reasoning goes, which is not very far, but the other side of the story is that the saving of even a small sum of money places one in a position where, oftentimes, this small sum may enable one to take advantage of business opportunities which lead directly and quite rapidly to financial independence. The foregoing table, showing what a saving of $5 a month will amount to at the end of 10 years, should be copied and pasted on your mirror, where it will stare you in the face every morning when you get up and every night as you retire, providing you have not already acquired the habit of systematic saving of money. This table should be reproduced in letters and figures an inch tall and placed on the walls of every public school throughout the land, where it might serve as a constant reminder to all school children of the value of the savings habit. Some years ago, before giving serious thought to the value of the savings habit, this author made up an account of the money which had slipped through his fingers. The amount was so alarming that it resulted in the writing of this lesson and adding the habit of saving as one of the 15 laws of success. Following is an itemized statement of this account. For $1,000 inherited, invested in automobile supply business with a friend who lost the entire amount in 1 year. $3,600 extra money earned from sundry writing for magazines and newspapers, all spent uselessly. $30,000, $3,400, $6,000 earned from training $3,000 salesman with the aid of the law of success philosophy. Invested in a magazine which was not a success because there was no reserve capital back of it. Extra money earned from public addresses, lectures, etc., all of which was spent as it came in. Estimated amount that could have been saved during a period of 10 years out of regular earnings at the rate of only $50 a month. $47,000. This amount, had it been saved and invested as received in building and loan associations or in some other manner that would have earned compound interest, would have grown into the sum of $94,000 at the time this lesson is being written. The author is not a victim of any of the usual habits of dissipation, such as gambling, drinking, and excessive entertaining. It is almost unbelievable that a man whose habits of living are reasonably moderate could spend $47,000 within a little over 10 years without having anything to show for the money, but it can be done. A capital reserve of $94,000, working at compound interest, is sufficient to give any man all the financial freedom he needs. I recall one occasion when the president of a large corporation sent me a check for $500 for an address I delivered at a banquet given to the employees, and I distinctly recall what went through my mind when I opened the letter and saw the check. I had wanted a new automobile, and this check was exactly the amount required for the first payment. I had it spent before it had been in my hands 30 seconds. Perhaps this is the experience of the majority of people. They think more of how they are going to spend what they have than they do about ways and means of saving. The idea of saving, and the self-control and self-sacrifice which must accompany it, is always accompanied by thoughts of an unpleasant nature. But oh, how it does thrill one to think of spending. There is a reason for this, and that reason is the fact that most of us have developed the habit of spending while neglecting the habit of saving, and any idea that frequents the human mind but seldom is not as welcome as that which frequents it often. In truth, the habit of saving can be made as fascinating as the habit of spending, but not until it has become a regular, well-grounded, systematic habit. We like to do that which is often repeated, which is but another way of stating what the scientists have discovered, that we are victims of our habits. The habit of saving money requires more force of character than most people have developed, for the reason that saving means self-denial and sacrifice of amusements and pleasures in scores of different ways. For this very reason, one who develops the savings habit acquires, at the same time, many of the other needed habits which lead to success, especially self-control, self-confidence, courage, poise, and freedom from fear. How much should one save? The first question that will arise is, how much should one save? The answer cannot be given in a few words, for the amount one should save depends upon many conditions, some of which may be within one's control and some of which may not be. Generally speaking, a man who works for a salary should apportion his income about as follows. Savings account 20% living, clothes, food, and shelter. 50% education, 10% recreation, 10% life insurance, 10% 100%. The following, however, indicates the approximate distribution which the average man actually makes of his income. Savings account nothing living, clothes, food, and shelter. 60% education, 0% recreation, 35% life insurance, 5% 100% under the item of recreation is included, of course, many expenditures that do not really recreate, such as money spent for alcoholic drinks, dinner parties, and other similar items which may actually serve to undermine one's health and destroy character. An experienced analyst of men has stated that he could tell very accurately, by examining a man's monthly budget, what sort of a life the man is living. Moreover, that he will get most of his information from the one item of recreation. This, then, is an item to be watched as carefully as the greenhouse keeper watches the thermometer which controls the life and death of his plants. Those who keep budget accounts often include an item called entertainment, which, in a majority of cases, turns out to be an evil because it depletes the income heavily and when carried to excess depletes, also, the health. We are living, right now, in an age when the item of entertainment is altogether too high in most budget allowances. Tens of thousands of people who earn not more than $50 a week are spending as much as one-third of their incomes for what they call entertainment, which comes in a bottle, with a questionable label on it, at anywhere from $6 to $12 a quart. Not only are these unwise people wasting the money that should go into a savings fund, but, of far greater danger, they are destroying both character and health. Nothing in this lesson is intended as a preachment on morality or on any other subject. We are here dealing with cold facts which, to a large extent, constitute the building materials out of which success may be created. However, this is an appropriate place to state some facts which have such a direct bearing on the subject of achieving success that they cannot be omitted without weakening this entire course in general and this lesson in particular. The author of this course is not a reformer. Neither is he a preacher on morals, as this field of useful endeavor is quite well covered by others who are able workers. What is here stated, therefore, is intended as a necessary part of a course of philosophy whose purpose is to mark a safe road over which one may travel to honorable achievement. During the year 1926, the author was in partnership with the late Don R. Mellett, who was, at that time, the publisher of the Canton, Ohio, Daily News. Mr. Mellett became interested in the law of success philosophy because it offered, as he believed, sound counsel to young men and young women who really wished to get ahead in life. Through the pages of the Daily News, Mr. Mellett was conducting a fierce battle against the underworld forces of Canton. With the aid of detectives and investigators, some of whom were supplied by the governor of Ohio, Mr. Mellett and the author gathered accurate data concerning the way most of the people in Canton were living. In July 1926, Mr. Mellett was assassinated from ambush, and 4 men, one of them a former member of the Canton police force, are now serving life sentences in the Ohio State Penitentiary for the crime. During the investigation into crime conditions in Canton, all reports came to the author's office, and the data here described are, therefore, known to be absolutely accurate. One of the officials of a large industrial plant whose salary was $6,000 a year paid a Canton bootlegger an average of $300 a month for the liquor, if stuff can be called liquor, which he used for entertaining. His wife participated in these entertainments, which took place in his own home. A paying teller in a bank, whose salary was $150 a month, was spending an average of $75 a month for liquor, and in addition to this unpardonable waste of money, out of a salary which was none too great at most, he was traveling at a pace and with a crowd which meant ruin for him later on. The superintendent of a large manufacturing plant, whose salary was $5,000 a year, and who should have been saving at least $125 a month, was actually saving nothing. His bootlegger's bill averaged $150 a month. A policeman whose income was $160 a month was spending over $400 a month on dinner parties at a nearby roadhouse. Where he got the difference between his legitimate income and his actual expenditures is a question that reflects no particular credit on the policeman. A bank official whose income, as near as it could be estimated from his previous year's income tax reports, was about $8,000 a year, had a monthly bootlegger's bill of more than $500 during the 3 months that his activities were checked by the Mellot investigators. A young man who worked in a department store at a salary of $20 a week was spending an average of $35 a week with one bootlegger. The assumption was that he was stealing the difference from his employer. Old man trouble awaited this young man, just around the corner, although it is not known by the author whether or not the two have come together as yet. A salesman for a life insurance company, whose income was not known because he worked on a commission basis, was spending an average of $200 a month with one bootlegger. No record of any savings account was found, and the assumption is that he had none. This assumption was later confirmed when the company for which the young man worked had him arrested for embezzlement of its funds. No doubt he was spending the money which he should have turned into the company. He is now serving a long sentence in the Ohio State Penitentiary. A young lad who was attending high school was spending large sums for liquor. The actual amount was not obtainable for the reason that he paid cash as he got the liquor, and the bootlegger's records did not, therefore, disclose the actual amount. Later, this boy's parents had him locked up to save him from himself. It was found that he was stealing money from a savings fund kept by his mother, somewhere about the house. He had stolen and spent more than $300 of this money when discovered. This author conducted a lecture bureau in 41 high schools, where he lectured once a month during the entire school season. The principals of these high schools stated that less than 2% of the students showed any tendency towards saving money, and an examination through the aid of a questionnaire prepared for that purpose disclosed the fact that only 5% of the students, out of a total of 11,000 of the high school age, believed that the savings habit was one of the essentials for success. It is no wonder the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. Call this a socialistic statement, if you please, but the facts bear out its accuracy. It is not difficult for any man to become rich in a country of spendthrifts such as this, where millions of people spend every cent that comes into their possession. Many years ago, before the present wave of mania for spending spread over the country, F.W. Woolworth devised a very simple method of catching the nickels and dimes that millions of people throw away for trash, and his system netted him over $100 million in a few years' time. Woolworth has died, but his system of saving nickels and dimes continues, and his estate is growing bigger and bigger. 5 and 10-cent stores are usually painted with a bright red front. That is an appropriate color, for red denotes danger. Every 5 and 10-cent store is a striking monument that proves, to a nicety, that one of the cardinal faults of this generation is the spending habit.